Brent Faiyaz just dropped his new album Wasteland, and what I noticed in particular is his new level of production. From the string sections to the heavy synths to the gritty basses, you can really notice a big leap up in Brent's production. A big involvement from Son de Son, which was mainly like ambient pads and luscious guitars. So in today's video I'm going to break down a Wasteland beat and hopefully give you an insight to this production. So with this beat, I started with the drums just to get that main rhythm. I know Brent likes to use 90 and early 2000s sort of Timberland drums, so I went for that style. As you can see here, I've layered one snare with a snap, which is reverbed, and then I've layered it with an extra clap. I did this because I noticed in Wasteland the claps and snares are very thick and have a nice core to them. And with this, I just added some real hi-hats and just brought a little bit of rhythm. And what Brent likes to have in his beats to ride the rhythm a little bit more is just shakers. And as you can see, I'm building up a nice rhythm here and it makes it easier to lay that bass down. Then I added this UFO perk, then this reverse perk. Then finally I had this bassy kick but wasn't too overpowering. So once I had them drums down and leveled them a little bit, I knew I can just fit that bass in and then just go off a melody from there. So I've got this short 808 that sounds like this. And then I just played in this 808 pattern. And what I noticed in songs like All Mine and Loose Change, it has like a nice gritty heavy bass. So I use this decapitator. I use this roll off highs, so it's driving it and giving it a nice saturated sound. And then just to get rid of a little bit of what I've processed is just took out some highs and lows. So once I had the idea of the drum pattern, I knew that it was time to start layering some sounds. And I noticed in songs like Addiction and Role Models, there's very heavy strings that just make that beat luscious and like an ambient. So as I used in my last video, this SRX strings, it just gives it a nice like tone to it. This gives it a sort of element like the song Loose Change, where it has that stabbing string section. So I knew I wanted to add on top of that, so I add this Triton analog hit that just gives it like a string section pad, but it comes in and out. And it has this nice higher tone that just sort of gives it that distinguished Wasteland sound. What I like about this sound as well, it has like a reverse texture in the start of it, and it sort of just gives extra bounce to the drums as well. And what Brent likes to use in his beats is obviously making stuff very large and like stereo. So I use this reverb just to get the harshness of that stabbing effect away. Then I try to mix it sort of like a Wasteland beat, so I just took out some little harsh frequencies that I didn't like in that like harsh sound. And what I noticed throughout this album and a lot of Brent sound is top line melodies in pads. So I use this ambient pad from Astral. So as you can see, heavy reverb. I'm having this really wide at the back, so it's pushed away, but bringing atmosphere to the whole sample. I've used this shaper box for 2 bars where it's rising in, so it wasn't clashing with the main stabbing strings. So next is where I add that synth layer that's throughout this album and very new to Brent's sound. So I use these ping pong malfunctions in the impulse bank. And all I've done with this is use it as like a strumming effect halfway through the bar. As you can see here on the grid, I've reversed it, stretched it so it's quicker, so it's having that nice like pulsing and rising effect and higher tone. And with that higher tone, you can see I've automated the harshness so it wasn't too crazy and too overpowering. And with that automation, I've used this low higher, so it's just filtering out the high frequencies and making them sound washed out. And then I've used this different kind of room reverb, so it's boxing it in and just not making it as wide as the others. As you can see by the automation here, I've added a delay, so it's just rising into the next half of the sample. And all I did with this was just add this default delay and just brought down the drive a little bit. So I felt like the sample was very repetitive and needed a change in the second half of the sample. What I noticed throughout this album is the synths and the bells. So I sort of found like a synth bell from Mellotron. So with this, I wanted the bell to have a different reverb, to have different presence in the beat. So I use this Office Rum reverb, sort of just boxing it again and not making it too spatial. And then again a 1/16 delay just to fill in the space. So let's listen to the sample before I make some changes. So I felt like that as a whole was too of a higher tone. So as you can see here, brought it down by 3 semitones that we all know I like to do. And as you can see by the screen, I've made some subtle changes where I've chopped it up and just reversed it. And for the first half of this sample, I put this halftime on. It sort of gives it like a nice slowed down effect. And with them bells, it gives it a cool little vibe. And then I put another reverb on it, nothing too crazy, but I felt like it needed a little bit more like ambient sound to it. So together, this is how the whole beat sounds. The production has definitely leveled up in my eyes, and he's made his own sound and he's really sticking to it. If you like this video, you know what to do. Leave a like, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.